Welcome to YouTube Pedia. Discover the greatest stories from history, science, and beyond. If you're curious about the world, subscribe now and join our journey through knowledge. Let's get started. Charles Darwin, the journey that changed science forever. Charles Darwin's journey toward becoming one of the most influential scientists in history was anything but ordinary. His early life, education, and most notably, his groundbreaking voyage on HMS Beagle paved the way for one of the most revolutionary theories in human history, the theory of evolution by natural selection. To truly understand Darwin's impact, we must first explore his beginnings, his experiences aboard the Beagle, and the early development of his ideas that would ultimately change how we perceive life itself. Early life and education. Born on February 12, 1809 in Shrewsbury, England, Charles Robert Darwin grew up in an intellectually stimulating environment. His father, Dr. Robert Darwin, was a successful physician, and his grandfather, Erasmus Darwin, was a renowned philosopher and scientist. From a young age, Charles exhibited a deep curiosity about nature, often collecting beetles and studying plants and animals. However, his father envisioned a different path for him, one in medicine. At the age of 16, Darwin was sent to the University of Edinburgh to study medicine. However, he quickly realized that he had little interest in the field, especially when it came to surgery. The sight of blood and the crude medical procedures of the time were unbearable for him. Instead, he found himself drawn to natural history and spent much of his time attending lectures and working with scientists who studied marine life. Seeing his lack of enthusiasm for medicine, Darwin's father decided that he should instead pursue a career in the clergy. In 1828, Darwin enrolled at Christ's College, Cambridge, with the intent of becoming a country parson. Ironically, it was here that he deepened his love for science. He befriended several influential professors, including John Stevens Henslow, a botanist who played a crucial role in shaping Darwin's future. Henslow introduced him to geology and recommended him for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, an unpaid position as a naturalist aboard HMS Beagle. The voyage of the Beagle, a journey of discovery. In December 1831, at just 22 years old, Darwin set sail on what would become one of the most important scientific expeditions in history. The 5-year journey aboard HMS Beagle took him around the world, exposing him to a vast array of landscapes, climates, and species. This experience fundamentally changed his understanding of the natural world. One of the most significant stops on the voyage was the Galapagos Islands, an isolated volcanic archipelago in the Pacific Ocean. Here, Darwin made observations that would later become the foundation of his theory of evolution. He noticed that different islands hosted slightly different species of finches, each with uniquely shaped beaks adapted to their specific diets. Some birds had long, pointed beaks ideal for catching insects, while others had strong, thick beaks suited for cracking nuts. At the time, Darwin did not fully grasp the implications of these variations, but he meticulously documented his findings. He also studied giant tortoises, marine iguanas, and numerous other species, all of which displayed fascinating adaptations that seemed perfectly suited to their environments. Beyond the Galapagos, Darwin explored the rainforests of Brazil, the desolate plains of Patagonia, and the coral reefs of the Pacific. He studied fossils of extinct creatures that bore striking similarities to modern species, leading him to question the prevailing belief that all life forms had been created in their present state. The seeds of a revolutionary idea. As the voyage progressed, Darwin's observations led him to challenge the traditional views of the natural world. The overwhelming evidence suggested that species were not fixed, but rather changed over time. He collected thousands of specimens, kept extensive notes, and engaged in deep contemplation about what he had witnessed. Upon returning to England in 1836, Darwin began compiling his research, collaborating with leading scientists and developing his theories. He was deeply influenced by the works of geologist Charles Lyell, who argued that the Earth was far older than previously believed, and economist Thomas Malthus, whose ideas on population growth and survival pressures helped shape Darwin's concept of natural selection. Although he had gathered compelling evidence, Darwin hesitated to publish his ideas immediately. He knew that his theory would challenge fundamental religious and scientific beliefs. For over 2 decades, he continued refining his research, carefully preparing for the eventual release of his groundbreaking work. Charles Darwin, The Battle of Ideas and the Legacy That Changed Science Forever. After returning from his groundbreaking voyage on HMS Beagle, Charles Darwin had gathered an enormous amount of data that would challenge the very foundations of how humans understood life on Earth. However, his journey was far from over. The real challenge lay in refining his theory, presenting it to the world, and enduring the storm of controversy that would follow. This chapter of Darwin's life is a tale of relentless scientific pursuit, intellectual courage, and an enduring legacy that continues to shape our understanding of biology today. It's the long road to publishing a revolutionary idea. When Darwin returned to England in 1836, he had an overwhelming collection of notes, sketches, and specimens. He knew he had uncovered something extraordinary, an explanation for the diversity of life that defied the traditional beliefs of his time. But Darwin also understood the weight of his discovery. If he published his findings, he would directly challenge the prevailing idea of special creation, the belief that all species had been created in their current forms by divine intervention. For nearly 2 decades, Darwin worked tirelessly to refine his ideas. He continued his research, corresponded with leading scientists, and tested his hypotheses against the vast body of evidence he had collected. One of his greatest intellectual influences was the geologist Charles Lyell, whose work suggested that the Earth was millions of years old, far older than the commonly accepted biblical timeline. This vast timescale provided the necessary conditions for slow, gradual changes in species. Darwin also found inspiration in Thomas Malthus, an economist who argued that populations tend to grow faster than their resources, leading to competition for survival. This idea helped Darwin shape his principle of natural selection, the mechanism by which organisms best suited to their environment survive and reproduce, while those less suited gradually disappear. Despite his confidence in his theory, Darwin hesitated to publish it. He knew that such a radical idea would be met with fierce opposition, not just from religious institutions but also from many within the scientific community. He feared public backlash and the potential damage to his reputation. For years, he continued gathering evidence, reluctant to take the final step. A race against time, Alfred Russel Wallace and the push to publish. By the mid-1850s, Darwin was still refining his research when an unexpected event forced his hand. In 1858, Alfred Russel Wallace, a young naturalist who had been independently studying evolution, sent Darwin a paper outlining a theory almost identical to his own. Wallace had arrived at the concept of natural selection through his studies in the Malay archipelago, completely unaware that Darwin had been working on the same idea for over 20 years. This moment was a turning point. Darwin faced a dilemma. If he delayed any longer, he risked losing credit for his life's work. With encouragement from Lyell and his botanist friend Joseph Dalton Hooker, Darwin and Wallace presented their joint findings at the Linnean Society of London in 1858. While the presentation sparked interest, it did not cause an immediate upheaval. However, Darwin now knew he had no time to waste. Over the next year, he worked feverishly to compile his decades of research into a single volume. The result was On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, published on November 24, 1859. The controversy and the clash with religious beliefs. On the Origin of Species was an instant success, selling out on the first day of publication. But as Darwin had anticipated, it was met with fierce opposition. His theory directly contradicted the widely held belief in divine creation, sparking intense debates between scientists, religious figures, and the general public. One of the most famous confrontations occurred in 1860 during a debate at the Oxford University Museum of Natural History. The Bishop of Oxford, Samuel Wilberforce, argued against Darwin's theory, questioning whether humans were truly related to apes. In response, the scientist Thomas Huxley, a staunch supporter of Darwin, famously declared that he would rather be descended from an ape than from a man who misused his intellect to suppress scientific truth. This moment became legendary, marking the beginning of a deep divide between science and religion. Despite the criticism, many scientists recognized the validity of Darwin's work. Over time, evidence from genetics, paleontology, and comparative anatomy strengthened his theory. While some initially rejected evolution, it gradually became the foundation of modern biology. Darwin's later years and final works. Following the publication of On the Origin of Species, Darwin continued his research and wrote several more influential books. In The Descent of Man, 1871, he applied his theory specifically to human evolution, suggesting that humans shared a common ancestor with primates. This idea was even more controversial than his original work, as it directly challenged the notion that humans were separate from the rest of the animal kingdom. Darwin also conducted extensive studies on plants and animals, publishing works such as The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, 1872, and The Power of Movement in Plants, 1880. His ability to observe and explain natural phenomena extended beyond evolution, influencing botany, psychology, and anthropology. Despite suffering from chronic illness for much of his later life, Darwin remained dedicated to science until his final days. He passed away on April 19, 1882, at the age of 73. In recognition of his contributions, he was buried in Westminster Abbey, an honor reserved for Britain's most distinguished figures. Darwin's legacy, a theory that shaped the modern world. Today, Darwin's theory of evolution is one of the cornerstones of biological science. His work has influenced not only our understanding of life, but also fields such as medicine, genetics, and anthropology. The discovery of DNA in the 20th century provided molecular evidence for evolution, confirming Darwin's ideas in ways he could never have imagined. Despite initial opposition, Darwin's work has stood the test of time. His willingness to challenge established beliefs, his meticulous scientific methodology, and his unwavering pursuit of truth changed the way we see the natural world. His legacy is not just in biology, but in the very philosophy of science, a testament to the power of curiosity and the importance of questioning the world around us. A conclusion: the man who changed everything. Charles Darwin's journey was one of courage, curiosity, and perseverance. From a young naturalist aboard HMS Beagle to a scientist who changed the world, his story is a testament to the power of observation and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Though his theory was controversial in his time, it has become one of the most profound and influential scientific ideas in history. His legacy reminds us that the pursuit of truth is never easy, but it is always worth it. The story of evolution is still being written, with new discoveries continually expanding our understanding of life's incredible journey. But it all began with one man, a notebook, and a willingness to question everything. So the next time you look at the world around you, remember Charles Darwin, the man who unveiled the hidden mechanisms of nature and forever changed our place in the story of life. Final call to action. If you found this video fascinating, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to YouTube Pedia for more incredible stories from history and science. What do you think about Darwin's theory of evolution? Let us know in the comments below.